Let's do this.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, let's do this.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Now let's do this.
Let's do it.
This is the Coaching Life Podcast. My name is Chris Stewart, and I am, once again, going to talk and have a conversation with my buddy Patrick Martin. Coach Pat Martin, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Coach.
On the other side of the screen there.
We haven't talked much the last couple of days.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what comes up. The least that we've chatted, and it's not like constant, but sometimes we at least text each other every day. And we've been busy. Let me ask you something. Are you sore? You been hitting fungos?
Yeah. No, we haven't. I haven't. I've had plenty of help, but I am sore. We've been practicing for a week and a day now, and we had a work day Saturday, so I've been moving a lot, which there's some side benefits to that, but you
no doubt
quickly realize how much out of shape you are. So, but yeah, I tell you, I haven't been able to sleep, not just in the evening, but in the morning now. I'm waking up earlier than what I normally do.
It's not hard to get up with that alarm, is it? When you know that you've got stuff ahead of you that you just absolutely love and can't wait to get to during the day.
It's not like anything I've ever really experienced in baseball, to be honest with you. And I just wonder, if at some point the adrenaline rush is gonna wear out. But man, I'm having an absolute blast.
I can tell you that it probably doesn't wear out. In fact,
well, I hope you're right.
It doesn't. In fact, when you decide, if you should decide, and hopefully not, hopefully you coach for a long, long time, but if you should decide to say walk away when Jake goes to play in college, like I did, even during those years, it's a different kind of itch. For me, it was this weird jealousy this time of year. Because I still followed the same people that I follow now on social media, and I still was around, and I'm still living in an area where we have 4 distinct seasons. And so as springtime starts to roll around, like this week, our weather is a lot better. You get that taste, that smell, that desire, that want to be out there on the field. You hear, you got other buddies and friends that are coaching, and you hear about they're out there working on their field, and you see what they're doing, and it's just that this is who I am. I got to get back there, and so even when you're not doing it, that fever's still there, and so I don't think it's never left me since I started coaching high school baseball. That adrenaline rush during the season. It ebbs and flows based on the way things are going, and certainly there's you get tired. It's tiring, but it's just different. It's the kind of work that when you texted me last night and said, well, we haven't talked to each other in 3 days. And I said, I just got home, and we haven't experienced daylight savings time yet, and so it's getting dark around 6 o'clock. And that's tough because I've got our practice plan going to 6:30, and we were hitting at that time. And I looked at one of my assistant coaches. I said, it's getting tough to see the baseball out here. And we still had another group to hit. And so we powered through it. And then once we finished up everything and sent everybody home, I still needed to drag the field. And it got to the point to where the vehicle I was dragging it with doesn't have headlights. And so I was about to pull my phone out so I could see where I was going. It was getting that dark. I'd been there for a while, getting the field prepared and then actually practicing, things like that. And you do that every single day, you'd think, man, the fatigue factor's got to set in. That's
what I'm wondering.
It doesn't, though. It doesn't. Yeah, you're tired that night, but you know what I did when I got home after I showered and ate a little bit? Kissed my wife, said hello. Yes, started making another practice plan. Yeah.
That's what I did.
That's what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it, is there, Coach Swain? Nothing like it. Yeah. Good stuff.
It's important, you know. There's value to it. There's a lot of value to it. It's not. I think there's. It's not just about baseball. It kind of supersedes, you know, extends beyond just the game of baseball, and there's more to it. The camaraderie and the brotherhood, and you know, the opportunity to be around and have an impact on young men's lives, and you know, it's just more than that. It's more than a game.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you
I
can't
think-
outgive it. You can't outgive it. It reciprocates itself. Like it's coaching is the kind of thing that the more you pour into it, the more it gives back to you. And you could try to outgive it all you want, but you're just going to get more and more energy, especially when you're focused on coaching people, not just a game, like what you're talking
Right.
about. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I think you have to go about that a certain way, right? You have to put emphasis on certain things to make sure that you're successful, or at least you have a good plan going into a situation where you know that you have an impact, or you might have an impact on people's lives. It's not something that you want to go into lightly, and it's, you know, you have to think about, you know, what you just said, developing people, not just baseball players. So I think that you know, I know that we talked about this prior to coming on, prior to recording, but you know, we talked about the importance of having core values in your sports program and your athletic program. And you know, I wonder how many programs out there think about, you know, those types of things. I know that when I was very young and coaching, you know, when I first started coaching recreational baseball in Middleport, Ohio, I thought an awful lot about the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, those were the most important things. And I've said that on the podcast numerous times. Core values were things, you know, like, you know, what our approach is to hitting, what our approach is to defense, you know, how you know, things like that impact the game, strategic things that help you win. But I think, well, I know, it's not that I think, you know, as coaches and as leaders of programs, we have to look a little deeper to define the core values of our team and of our program, and where we want, you know, our team to go and how we want them to look. So
Yeah.
What are your thoughts initially when I use the phrase core values?
I think of our team's character, our program's character, the kinds of principles that we believe about, the kinds of principles that we want to do everything in our program, keeping those things in mind. And I also, let me say this too, make no mistake, when you when you operate a program based on a set of core values and principles, those things are going to help you win the game also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
well, it's because of what we always say. You know, it's not, we didn't invent this thought, but the better person you are, the better player you're going to be.
Right. You know, I think of, I struggle sometimes with this whole concept and doing it, and we do it. I'll tell you, and I'll walk through our process for how we did it this year, if you'd like, with our team. You got to be careful with core values, mission statements, things like that become words on a poster or screen prints on a T-shirt, because that's not truly what your team character is unless the behavior matches what those core values say. And so,
Absolutely.
you know, and so sometimes I've always kind of had a hard time putting, you know, words that are core values on a T-shirt, and now I'm turning from that. I'm doing it this year, and this is, I'll tell you, Pat, of all the years I've coached, this is the first year I've ever done it. This will be the first year that I've put a list of core values on a T-shirt, and I think it's because I constantly want to instill in our players and our coaches and our parents, anybody that's involved in our program at all, that our culture is based solely on behavior. The actual behavior, not the perceived behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Because if you want to find out what your program's culture is, invite somebody to come and spend some time around you guys who aren't normally there. And then meet with them later and say, okay, give me 6 words that define our culture. Be ready.
Yep.
Because you're going to get the truth. You're not going to get,
Yep, and
you may or may not get the 6 words that are on the back of your T-shirt. Hopefully you do.
Exactly.
But be ready, because why? Because culture is based on behavior.
Yeah, they're not looking at your mission statement that hangs above your locker room door. They're looking at how you move on the field, how you communicate with each other, what your energy level is. They're looking at your behavior.
Yeah. If one of your core values is love, they're going to see whether or not you truly love each other. Right? That's, I mean, if one of your core values is to hustle, that's pretty easy to see whether or not you're living by it. And so and so again, I love figuring out what your core values are because it gives you a target to shoot for. I even talked about this past week. I said, we will shoot for perfection. I think it was Coach Lombardi that said, men, we will aim for perfection, knowing all the while that we will never attain it, but on the way to perfection, we will have attained excellence. Right? I don't know if that's the correct. I mean, that's off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it was Lombardi that said something of that nature. And I think
the Apostle Paul said something of that.
Yeah. Maybe Lombardi stole it from Paul. That's what it was. But the picture I get in my mind is a target. If you hand somebody a bow and an arrow and you say, "Hey, go shoot," you know what they're going to say? Hopefully, they say, "What at? What should I shoot at? What should I aim for?" Right. And if you just say, "Oh, just shoot it," I mean, just shoot it the best you can. Well, how do you know that you're shooting it the best you can if you don't have a target to aim at and to aim for and shoot at? And so I think that's what core values become. That's what
I agree with that. I like that analogy. Let me give you another. You know what core values are really important for? For when you're going through that stupid handshake line. And someone spits on you or pushes you or punches you.
The Michigan basketball coach. Watch out, you might get dicked.
There you go. Now I'm validated.
Now you wait though. But we're gonna have to play Coach Izzo's press conference though, Pat, to get the balance of both sides. Right?
I've been taking a lot of
the Michigan State press conference. Yeah.
People have been all over me about my stance on hands. People, listen, we're going to shake hands, okay? That's
awesome. That just tells you people are listening to our podcast, Pat. People are listening. People are listening.
I was messing with one of our track athletes from last year. Telling her she was going to run hurdles this year, and I said I couldn't wait to watch her run hurdles, and she said, "I can't wait to watch you shake hands going through the basement." She gave me a hard time. I was like, "That's good. Well played."
That's classic.
Now, here my analogy, Coach, is it's a path. It gives you direction, right? Mm-hmm. So when you come upon a fork in the road, you can follow your core values to know which direction you need to go. There's a quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's something like, the ultimate teammate is someone that would never do anything to embarrass the team on the field or off the field.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's the connection there between people and player, because, core values transcend to life. And the practice that you put into the way that you behave in life carries over onto the field. So I think when a program has core values, it's all about the people. It's all about the development of the person. But in developing the person, that comes back and impacts, everything that you do, in practice, in a game, and then you're talking about bus rides, and you're talking about hanging out with your friends, and you're talking about being in school, and in all the different ways that you behave. And it's just one big program of practicing, behavior that is successful behavior. Mm-hmm. And it's the small things, right? The small things matter, and then they build up, and they definitely make an impact when you're playing a game.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the behaviors that you're talking about and that we're thinking of here are things that are not compartmentalized. They fit regardless of what context you happen to be in today. Like right now, as you and I are talking, our kids are in school. And so if I'm thinking through the core values, the words that our guys chose, as Eagles, what does it look like to be an Eastern Eagle baseball player? What does the ideal Eastern Eagle baseball player look like? I'm thinking through our energy, attitude, grit, leadership, efforts, supportive. And I'm thinking, man, you know what? Those things are things that fit right now, right where you're sitting. If you're listening to us in class, which hopefully you're not, but if you're listening to us, you ought to be living those things right now, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's not. So we're not talking about batting average. We're not talking about a particular swing, an arm path and things. And really, we're talking about ways that you live on or off the field, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about ways that we can impact games last night in our classroom session that didn't directly correlate to a successul metric. So, a batting average.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at batting average as a way to determine, production. And we talked about ways that, your batting average may suffer, but you're still helping the team succeed. And, one of the things that we talked about was the way that we handled failure, the way that we handled disappointment, because of the energy that you remove from your team if you have, negative body language, and the energy that you give to your team if after something goes wrong, you stick your chest out and you still walk with the same swag and you have the same confidence that, you can turn that negative, that action that has a bad production metric into a positive that over the course of the game helps your team win.
Absolutely.
The behavior around the game means so much, and it doesn't only mean so much as far as perception or what other people think about you, but it matters so much about how you're feeling in that moment too. The next time you get an opportunity to make a production impact on the game, right? So if you're, that's how it makes a difference during a baseball game. If you're consistently modeling behavior through these values that we're talking about, it's going to help win baseball games. It's difficult, but that's why sports are so hard. And it's things that we need to talk about more for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. And you can't measure that. It's hard. Like the path leading up to that result is hard to measure, but the result obviously is easy to measure. So then you look at the result and you say, well, what are all the things that contributed to this? And we tend to only think about the physical aspects of things that contributed to it, but realistically, the things that contributed to it were those really intangible mindset values that you uphold as well. And I think, the more you point that out, the more you study it, the more you practice it, the more it's part of who you are and your program is, the more people are going to realize, yes, this does make a difference. One of the things, I'll give you an example. One of the things we've been doing at the end of our practices is I've been teaching our guys how to breathe. That just seems like,
awesome.
Like what? Teach them how to breathe. Don't people know how to breathe? Well, of course, we wouldn't be alive if we didn't. But sometimes what I mean by that is I'm teaching them how to think about their breath, how to focus on their breath. And then I'm asking them, what happens when you do that? It's just very simply what I did. I said, okay, we talked about the 6-2-8 breath. I said, breathe in for 6, hold it for 2, and breathe it out for 8. And then it's dead quiet. And I say, so tell me what happened. Something just happened. And the first word I got was calm. And it couldn't have been a more perfect word for somebody to say after taking one of those breaths. I said, so is there ever a time during a baseball game when you just need to be calm? And of course the answer is yes. Every at bat, every pitch, exactly. It's in fact, this might be a worthy thing for us to have a fan clinic or a parent clinic, right? How can we be calm? Let's teach everybody how to breathe. Right? A coach's clinic. Well, we get that's where we get it. We get them in coaches' clinics.
Listen, there's value to it because
there really is.
If you're a group of fans and you're there, complaining about the umpire nonstop and to a level that you're kind of becoming a distraction, that can impact the mental direction of players on your team
of the entire game. It'll affect.
Absolutely.
It could affect the umpire because they're not robots; they are human, as you can see.
Yeah,
that's the reason why you're mad, because they're human and they're making mistakes. That's the reason you're yelling at them.
On this too, as a coach, like I come back in, I'll be like, you guys leave the communication with the officials to us or the umpires to us, and it's almost hypocritical. But as a coach, you have that job. Mm-hmm. There's an understood role that you do talk a little bit. Well, but you got to be very careful.
And we should communicate to our players that's actually what the umpire prefers, and they tell us that at the home plate meeting. They'll say, "Look, if you have a question or you have a disagreement with the call, there is an appropriate way to address it. Call time, come out, we'll talk about it." And so we do have that is our role. Yeah, you're not lying to your kids.
Think about that too, because after we come back, because here's the bottom line: 98% of the time when we have a question with the umpire, it's not gonna turn in our favor at the end. After the discussion,
it might be less than that, Pat.
You're right. Well, but we have to control the way that we come back and handle that diversity and that failure as well. So because our behavior is going to impact our team too. So. There's all these different kinds of dynamics that go into this thought process, and it's I think you have to sit down. And I've had coming in as a first year head coach at Megs here, people were giving me advice. Head coaches were giving me advice that I talked to, and I had heard this advice multiple times that you have to decide. What you want your program to look like, and you have to implement that as quickly as you can. Yeah. And I would say that's great advice. My thing is, I think it's an evolving thing. I think it's organic. It's ever changing. It's a living process, just like a person's changes. Just like a person develops as they go along. But again, it's that direction. And if you have that direction defined, then as guys are going through the challenges of the season, through the challenges of life, it gives them options. Allows them to think, what's the best course of action here? Yeah. Let me think about this principle. Let me think about this value. What can I do here to stay within that framework so that again, we don't embarrass our team. We don't embarrass ourselves, off the field and on the field. So it's, again, we should talk about it more. I think that's one of the things that, this type of conversation is probably one of the things that we like least about travel baseball, because it seems, I would say a lot of travel baseball teams, organizations out there have mission statements. They have culture banners and things like that, but it's hard for whatever reason in that environment to nurture, the culture that they talk about on their shirts or on their signs and things like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having, your mission statement or your core values, your expectations, printed and hung up, and where I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're doing. Yeah. I think the difference is your focus is on the understanding that it doesn't matter if we wear a T-shirt that says these things. What matters, the T-shirt is here to remind us.
Yes, it's a reminder.
We've got a goal.
Yeah.
These are the expectations, and we need to follow them.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
It is. I'm looking forward to it. I think we're gonna have it's already been a pretty cool experience for us. And I'll tell you, you mentioned something here too that I'll elaborate on a little bit. You said that you've talked to coaches and they've said that they wanted you just need to come in and decide what you need to decide what you want your program to be, and then implement it and do it. But then you also talked about how that's going to be up to the kids, because obviously they're the ones that are driving the culture. And so
absolutely,
it ultimately, and I think part of it being fluid is letting them have ownership in it, and even ownership in determining it as well. Because ultimately, I really think that we want the same thing. And this is the sort of, okay, I'll tell you the process that we used when we had our player meeting. This was before the season began. We had our players come together for a meeting, just an informational meeting about what to expect when practice starts. And I said, one of the things that we're going to do here, the main thrust of this meeting is going to be for us together to decide what kind of team we want to be. And I'm going to let you guys decide that. Because I think that when it comes down to it, even though they may have some different things that they want to focus on, we're going to mesh together pretty good. Because I actually started it with this. I said, I got a question for you, and I want everybody to respond to this question with raising your hand or not raising your hand. Who wants to win? Do you want to win? And every hand went up. If any hand did not go up, I was going to dismiss them right away. I'd already decided that in my mind. If you don't want to win, this isn't for you. Because we want players. Well, yeah, what in life is, right? What in life is. Because I transitioned directly from that to this. I said, we're going to define what our core values as a team is. And I want you to keep in mind that we want to win. And we want to win not just ball games, we want to be winners in everything that we do. And so I want you to think about yourself in 3 categories. I want you to think about yourself as a person, as a student, and as an athlete. Those are the three facets of life that I want you to think about. And then I want you to answer this question. What do I look like when I'm winning as a student? What do I look like when I'm winning as a person? What do I look like when I'm winning as an athlete? And I said, I want you to think about I just want you to write down some character traits. So I gave them all Post-it notes and pens. And I said, I just want you to write down some character traits. Take some time and write some thoughts. What do I look like? Because that's what I want you to put in the back of your team manual when it comes to, I promise this is who I'm going to be. And it was sort of a contract. That was our contract, right, to play for us. And so we each got, each player got 5 separate Post-it notes. And I said, here's the activity that we're going to do right now. I said, we're going to get up and walk around the room. I took, the big size Post-its that you can put on the wall, like the flip charts, but they have the sticky stuff on them. So I stuck 6 of them on the wall. And at the top of each one, I had a different letter. So I had an E over here on this wall, and an A here, and a G over in that corner, and an L here, and then another E over here, and then an S over there. And so we had 6 letters that spelled out Eagles.
Wait a second. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I got you.
So there's 2. So I gave him 5. You're like, well, that's 5 Post-it notes. Well, it's because there's 2 E's. And so I said, well, we're going to get a lot of, we're going to get 20 some different words for, but maybe different. There was definitely a lot of overlap, and that's kind of the point of the activity. And so I said, I want you to just do this on your own. Come up with 5 words on your own, beginning with EAGLS. Okay. Write a word. 1 word on your Post-it note that begins with that letter that you think defines what an Eastern Eagles baseball player should be, and then walk over to that chart and post your Post-it on that wall. And so they were doing that. They did that. I had my assistant coaches go around, collect them, and then sift through them and everything. And they were kind of matching up the ones that were similar and they kind of made columns with the ones that were the same or similar. And then I was talking with them, the rest of the team, about other things. And then I said, okay, coaches, what do we got? What words do we have that are that were the most similar in those groupings? And they told me, well, the first E that looks like we had two different words for the E that came up. That was most common, and that's good because we had two E's in the word, in the word Eagles.
I got one.
So energy was the first one.
Oh, geez, that's a great one.
Energy was the first one. And then for the A, the most common word for A was attitude. And now in my mind, so I had done this earlier. I had written down some words also, and I kind of thought, just kind of predicting what I thought they might say, and I thought aggressiveness would be in there. And there was some aggressive, but the majority of the words were attitude. So I basically looked at the seniors. I left it up to them. I said, you guys got the final call here. I said, you got attitude, you've got aggressive, and they said, we like attitude. Yeah, we want that.
Aggressive is an attitude.
Yeah, it is. It starts there, doesn't it? And and so we talked about that. Well, because here's what the G word was: grit.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. L, they chose leadership. The other E, the second E, effort.
Yeah, that's your aggressiveness.
And then the S, this is one that never even came to my mind, and I was really proud of them that this is what we landed on. And the S was supportive. Yeah. I really like that. And so we hung on that one for a little bit and talked about it and about how it fits with the whole team concept of things and the roles. And no matter what your role is, you're supporting one another, you're supporting the team, you're supporting the program. And it doesn't matter how good or how poor a player is, they're going to get the same support as everybody else. And it was a really good exercise. And so that's what we did. That's how we came up. Those are our core principles, our core values, and they're more than just something that we want to talk about, something we want to chant at the end of practice or a game. They are things that we want to remind ourselves, this is our character as a person, as a student, and as a player.
I like it. Yeah, I like support because it ties everything together. Like it brings together, the whole reason that you have a list of values that represent your team. Because not only is it there as a support system for the individual, but it's a support system there for the whole team. So that's a really good word. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
but I think we need to talk about this kind of stuff. We need to start talking about these things from a youth league perspective. We need to start teaching. Our young athletes, what it means. And I don't know, maybe we're soft. Maybe these things don't matter. I think they do, but I think a lot of good coaches agree with us, or we agree with them anyway. But I remember a few weeks back there, talking about support and core values and what the behavior you want to build a program on. There was a picture that was posted on Facebook of the Megs Lady Marauders basketball team, and it was of the starters or the players that typically play the most minutes in the game. They were all on the bench. It was a game that they had a pretty good handle on. They're all on the bench, but the picture was of them all standing up, like jumping and just screaming and in support of their teammates. And that's one of the things that I loved. That I absolutely loved it. I mean, there's the types of things that that get me fired up, because my statement was, you can build a program off of that behavior.
Yeah,
that's it. We're not talking about dribbling. We're not talking about shooting, defense. We're talking about that behavior right there of supporting your teammates. Of they had energy. Right, they were playing a role on the bench. They were giving effort. They were showing leadership. They were giving support. Right, and they were celebrating because the girls on the floor were still popping threes. I think they were up 40, so that's pretty aggressive too, right? So just a play on.
It was the backups on the floor.
Yeah. But they were still shooting. I mean, they were up there.
Oh yeah.
That means so much to a program to have that type of behavior in it, And, if that's your foundation, then you're in good shape, to build skill. You're in good shape to learn how to field a ground ball and to catch a fly ball and, to hit an 0-2 pitch and, do all these skill related things that we need to do to win. But it's the behavior of these things that we're talking about that provides us the capacity to do that to the best of our ability. It's so important. It can't be understated.
No, it can't. So yeah, develop them wherever you're at.
Start thinking about it. Youth coaches, hey, stop worrying about your kids' batting average so much. Think about how they behave when they're coming out of the batting circle, when they're coming off the field or they're running on the field. Think about what they're doing in the dugout, what they're doing before games, after games. Think about how they support each other. I love that support work, coach. That's a good one.
I do too.
That's a good one the guys came up with.
Pat, for all of our travel ball coaches and parents and kids that listen to us, I do think that this is possible with travel. I think the reason you brought it up is because it doesn't appear, there's so many travel programs out there, and we've seen so many poor examples of teams most likely not having these kinds of values and principles that they live by. But here's what I want to say about that. One is I think the challenge. There's one challenge for travel teams, and that is they are immediately, usually when we're talking baseball or softball, they're immediately getting a grouping of kids who are coming from 16 to 18 or however many players they've got on their team, different cultures, and immediately starting to play games. Right?
Good point. Yeah.
So that they've been in a culture with core values and principles or none defined, but they're still living by. You've got a culture, whether you define it or not, and they've been in that.
That's true.
They've been in that for their high school program for 3 or 4 months now, and then they're going to immediately come to you and start playing games on your travel team, and that's a challenge. That's a real challenge. I've been in it. I'm not. I don't just speak negatively about travel ball sometimes because. I perceive that from the outside. It's because I've lived it. I have lived it. Many years I've lived it. And so there's positive and there's negative. And I think that's and the negatives aren't always because they want it to be negative. It's just because it's the hand that you're dealt sometimes. And I think that's one of the caveats about travel ball that's different than high school ball is that you don't have nearly the preparation time in the immediacy. However,
absolutely, I was going to say time. Yeah.
However, I'm going to hold them accountable here. I'm going to speak on the other hand. They actually have more preparation time than high school coaches do with their players because they've got the entire offseason. The only time they can't work with their players, well, in our state at least, is from February 21st or whatever the date is that OHSAA says they can begin playing with us. Then their hands have to go off, right? But up until that time, they've got them.
Yeah.
And so you can... It's still different kind of training because it's a lot of one-on-one training. It's a lot of, but there is still the opportunity there to build.
Just a different type of challenge. Yeah. And I would say this, there's definitely travel organizations out there that do a good job with this.
Oh, certainly.
I would just say they're more of the exception.
And they're typically the ones that have been around for a long, long time. Right?
Yep. And they're probably pretty good.
Yes.
Typically too.
Yes.
So
you look on their websites, you can see these core values posted on their websites. You see that. You see it in the behavior of their players and their coaches, and they respect one another, they respect the game, they respect the officials. And yeah, you do have that. So it's definitely not all bad. I think it's just so large that there's been a lot of watering down, and there's also a lot of generalizations. That's really easy to point. It's really easy to make generalizations about travel, right? Travel sports and club sports, and so I wanted to kind of circle back around to that and make a couple points on that for that reason. It can be done, and it's often done among those organizations. Again, in the same way that you and I have to be intentional about it, those organizations have to be intentional about it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Good deal.
So think about it.
Yep.
Coaches, players, it matters.
It does matter.
What are your core values?
Got a lot of
Sorry,
good
Coach.
weather this week. Enjoy it.
Well, I'm enjoying it.
Unless you're
Actually
living in
trying to
Michigan or
resave that.
Colorado and listening to us, and good luck with that.
Yeah. Have a good one. Talk to you later.